Alex Becker just released his 2024 bull run portfolio with 32 tokens mentioned, with a target of 50 to 100x, and he definitely mentioned some absolute gems there, but after quick research you can also see that he mentioned several tokens that you need to stay away from. Some of these tokens are going to do very, very well, and some of them are going to severely underperform the market. If you don't know which ones, you are at the risk of picking the worst projects and falling into the best projects at the top of the market. For each project, I will provide you with my overview and my analysis so you will know whether or not you're getting dumped on. A lot of people are screaming a bunch of tokens doing 100x in a bull run. That's not true. There is not enough liquidity for each and every token to do 100x. And most likely, best projects, highest quality projects, they will suck up all the liquidity, leaving influencers pump and dumps projects with zero liquidity. I will tell you in clear terms which project is good and which project is bad. Just check out my previous videos. All of the picks that I was confident in are severely outperforming other altcoins. We will also discuss exit strategy for each and every coin, which will be based on the stage of the market, not the actual price target, which is very retail by itself. 99% of people have done zero research on the tokens that Alex mentioned. I am doing this research for you. Add this video to watch later, like it, and subscribe to the channel as well. Picking the right project is the difference between a 5x and a 50x in the bull market. Let's begin. First things first, let's start with Avalanche. Avalanche is a layer 1 project from last cycle as well, and it's being pumped currently in connection with all these games coming out on the marketplace and things like that. Therefore, it might do well in comparison to the fact that there would be a bunch of projects releasing this cycle as well. Market cap is quite nice at this stage in comparison to the previous highest too. We have 15 billion market cap with the fully diluted of 28 billion, which basically tells us that there is definitely a manipulation played with this token as well, because investors, they will be looking to make ROI on the investments, as they don't have half of the tokens in circulation at this stage. We had highs of the previous run at $120, and it's quite interesting that at the previous run, these highs, they were also connected with the run of the gaming tokens. So the fact that AVAX reached all-time highs within the run of gaming projects. And I think this time we just have so many games being developed on Avalanche. It's an EVM-based blockchain, so it's quite nice from that point of view. However, I don't believe that this project will do a lot of access. In comparison to new shiny objects, new layer 2s, maybe even L1s, we have a bunch of layer 2s released with ZK rollup implementation, parallelized blockchains and things like that. So there is a bunch of innovation, and AVAX is definitely an older project. It also usually follows Solana, so it's actually an alpha play when you see Solana pumping and you take a Solana profit and you basically just put it into AVAX, and you're able to get several more access on the funds that you basically just invested and took profit on Solana. From my point of view, conservative 3 to 5x, that would be quite a large marketplace. After that, in a full bull, if we are getting this super bull, might do 5 to 10x. But it will probably be very hard to sit in this token because everything around it would be pumping like crazy. And this, as essentially it's the main token, main coin of the ecosystem, it will definitely pump lower as well. We had recent lows at $35. Right now we are at 40. It was not even like a large dip from the pump as well. So that basically means that the holders of the token, they don't want to sell. They are anticipating a larger pump for the project moving forward. Chainlink is something very interesting for this cycle, because we do expect a bunch of institutions coming into this space, and they need oracles with real world data in order to approve smart contracts specifically for DeFi operations and real world assets, projects and tokens as well. There are whales from previous cycle that made multiple millions of dollars buying Chainlink, and they were buying Chainlink on these lows as well, because it's essentially the only one safest pick largest and best peak that they basically see from their end in order to save the funds in the first place, which is very, very important because the first rule of investing is not lose money. And secondly, in order to multiply the funds as well. It's actually one of these crypto that Alex mentions himself that has real world implementation as well. A bunch of engineers, if they're doing any smart contracts, they are using oracles from Chainlink. Very, very interesting project. We see that the market cap is 11 billion at this stage and the fully diluted market cap is at 20 billion at this stage. We did not reach previous all-time high yet, obviously, speaking of the market cap of the token as well. I think it will do well, especially with the introduction of institutions. I do think it's going to do more multipliers than AVAX. At the same time, Chainlink is definitely less retail friendly. Retail, they're not going to FOMO into this project. I would say it's more for like technical people, some engineers, people that understand things, but yet is something that's being used on a daily basis in crypto. You don't have this in a lot of projects because most projects, they're not getting used like at all, most blockchains. And Chainlink is very, very good from that point of view. I would put it at 5 to 10x from these levels. And I would say it's very, very safe pick to basically head your portfolio. If you want to have an anchor in your portfolio, Chainlink is a great choice for that. Right now it's pumping. So we're at 19, 20 bucks. Maybe we'll get a correction. So you would want to get into lower because just recently it was 14 bucks, even 13 bucks. If I would want to enter Chainlink, I would probably not be entering currently, but essentially I would be entering a bit later in the cycle because there is still a chance we might be getting a correction. And essentially we do always expect to get a correction as well because this is normal. This is something that's happening on the market all the time as well. Next thing is Immutable X. Layer 2 on Ethereum with close to zero fees for gas transactions on Ethereum, which is very, very great because they have the implementation of ZK rollups technology. And essentially it's mostly being used for gaming. They are actually quite a large corporation at this stage with proper people, with expertise, with nice LinkedIns based in the US. Therefore, they have a bunch of projects and bunch of games that will be onboarded on the platform as well. One of the bullish things is that these games, they would essentially be onboarding in Ethereum ecosystem. That's not something that we see in a lot of the projects because it's a very, very great and interesting thing for the project to be able to be onboarded in Ethereum as well. And you don't have to bridge things from Ethereum to IMX. It's quite interesting from the user experience point of view. It's quite bullish for the platform as well because they position themselves as largest Ethereum-based gaming platform where transactions are actually happening in Ethereum. It's very, very interesting. It has market cap at 4.2 billion, fully diluted of 6.3. I think it's a great project. It was basically launched closer to the end of the last bull cycle. So you can say it never have seen a bull cycle, a bull market before. I think it's going to do very, very well. I think it's more on the safest part in the full bull. I expect from 10 to 20 X's on Immutable X. I think it will do very, very well. Next thing we have is BEAM. BEAM is essentially an upgrade of the project of the previous cycle, Merge Circle. Despite this fact, people are still treating this project as a project of this cycle just because of the fact that they renamed, they have a new chart as well, and they have some new things going on for them as well. BEAM is an infrastructure play that will also be onboarding games and projects in gaming studios. They already have things like Rainy Studios on their ecosystem as well, which is quite bullish and quite safe by itself. We do have the partnership signed between BEAM, Polygon, and Immutable X, which is very, very bullish for this gaming ecosystem and essentially BEAM being recognized as a part of this ecosystem as well. There are projects being developed on BEAM at this stage. Team is in near Tokyo, so it's definitely going to be pushed and moved forward by Alex Becker and Elliot Trades moving forward in the cycle as well. Market cap is 1.5 billion and it's very, very interesting that fully diluted is quite low. It's 1.9 billion. Therefore, we definitely can understand that it can have some gas moving forward into the market as well. I do think it's also going to do well. I do think it's a great project. It's kind of on the safer side. So if you don't want to get into IMX, you can get into BEAM. You are taking a bit more risk, but I would say that your upside is much better from the things that would be essentially happening with BEAM as well. Although if IMX would be doing things properly, they might suck up a lot of liquidity. But BEAM will probably still do very, very well. And on the recent move, we saw something very, very healthy from BEAM. So it did a 2x from the correction. It's always great when a token is basically reviving fast after the correction. That's a good sign, and these are the projects that you should be following from your end, not the projects that after correction are basically just doing nothing. That usually means that they're quite weak. And we need to focus on the strong players, and market itself is basically telling you who are the strong players and who are the weak players on the marketplace as well. Beam, I do also think, is going to do quite well, 10 to 20x in the full gaming bull run and full bull cycle of this market as well. Just because of the fact we would essentially have a bunch of liquidity coming in from different sources as well, mostly retail and institutions along with boomers as well. Next thing we have is Super. I have FOMO about Super actually, because I wanted to put 100k into Super at 0.5 levels and I didn't do that. And that hurts me. And the main reason for me wanting to put 100k in Super at these levels is the fact that I do love influencers token. I do understand that they will pump, they will push it all the time on the marketplace. Virtual Bacon is supporting Super as well, along with Elio and along with Alex Becker too. And right now we just had like a small wave of retail coming in. And I would say it's not even retail. Like these are guys that knew something about crypto before, and essentially they start to hear about it a bit more. BTC just reached 50k, so therefore they are returning into the marketplace. I do love these things where you basically just can buy some token that is shielded heavily by the influencer. And Super is very classic, very nice example. I would be looking for pullbacks on these things. I think it's going to do very well, even despite the ecosystem, despite the things that are happening there. Just the fact that it's being supported and pushed by 3 very large YouTube channels, just going to do well. You need to understand how the market works here. It's quite interesting that from the market cap point of view, we are almost as close as the all-time highs of the previous cycle, which is very interesting. And also considering the fact that we should have more tokens in circulation this time. But at the same time, we also see that the fully diluted valuation is 2 times larger than the market cap. Therefore, there are a bunch of tokens to be unlocked. Therefore, there would be a certain dilution introduced on the project as well. Well, you know my thesis. I think that Super is going to do very well just because of the fact it's kind of perceived as this like new token of this cycle, because it was quite early for Super in the previous cycle as well in terms of the things that were happening, things like that. It kind of launched at almost the top of the bull market, because March of 2021 for a lot of coins it was already the top of the bull cycle at that stage, right? So I do think it's going to do well, especially with these inflows of new people and essentially influencers pumping this token up and talking about this token and mention this token and providing presentations about this token. It will definitely do very well. 10 to 20x, well, I gave Beam 10 to 20x, but if we would check out fully diluted, Super is not that far from Beam at this stage. So I would probably give it 10 to 20x, but also in the full bull once we are basically at that part of the cycle as well, just because of the fact it has very strong support from influencers, and you should not neglect that, because they would be the main weapon for retail to throw the funds into the market. Echelon Prime, the token that I'm mentioning on this channel quite a lot, and Alex also mentioned this token on his previous video yesterday as well. The only difference that I mentioned it 10 days ago. We will definitely see manipulation. These things will definitely go higher because people are looking to make an ROI. It's also a token from this cycle, which makes me quite bullish. And so if you were actually following me and following this channel, you were able to almost do a 2x. Right now, following advice of Alex, you would probably just get dumped on, or maybe do 20 to 30x and then enter the correction. However, long term, I think it's a very great and nice pick. I do think that this token is going to do very well. It seems that they're investing into marketing at this stage, because there are several channels essentially talking about them, doing interviews with the founders of the token as well. And I do like the fact that it's also a combination of 2 narratives, AI and gaming. 2 things that are going to get pumped the most this cycle by retail. That's quite interesting. I do think that Bitcoin DeFi is actually going to outperform everything. But from retail point of view, it's definitely going to be gaming and AI. It's also very interesting that we see that the fully diluted market cap is at 1.5 billion, which is essentially even larger than we have on Super. And we do only have 20% in the circulation of this token at this stage, which means that we would essentially get a bunch of tokens diluted into the market. And maybe these current market operations are connected with the fact that we will have unlocks for early investors soon. Therefore, they're pumping up the price of the token to be able to liquidate at higher prices at the same time. It also kind of depends on the market maker and early investors as well, because if they would want to push the price of the token higher, and I do believe that everyone believes in the bull cycle this year, therefore they can just lock up the token with the market maker and just agree on the fact that they will be not selling the tokens right away. They would be waiting, and we would essentially continue just pump the price of the token up. I do think it's going to be very, very well. I also wanted to put quite substantial amount of money in this token as well. Unfortunately, it pumped already, so I would be waiting. If it will just search, no worries, it will search without me being a holder of this token in the first place. I would probably just want to put it at 10 to 20x as well, because fully diluted is 1.5 billion. It's more than Super. Therefore, we have to be conservative as well. We have to be not over optimistic, not to hold our bags at the top of the cycle and just thinking, oh, just 2 more X, just 2 more X, I will have so much more money, and then just riding the whole bag down. This is what a lot of people actually did last cycle. And this is what they regret the most. Oasys. I do actually not know this token. This is the first time I'm seeing it, and I wanted to specifically do a live research on this token just to show you how I'm usually doing it. We see that the market cap is at 250 million at this stage. Fully diluted is 1.2 billion. So it's also larger than Super, I think, at this stage, which is crazy. It's a new token of this cycle, so it's great from this point of view because I didn't see a bull market yet, and no influencers, they were talking much about this token previously. So it's quite interesting that during the gaming run in October and November, it didn't pump much. So it was just going down. It's probably here, holders, they were selling the tokens because they did not see it pumping, and market maker was buying out all the tokens. And when he bought necessary amount, he basically just started the manipulation once there are no random players, random holders in this thing as well. Do we have the blockchain for smart contract? I don't see it here. Very, very interesting. I think it's actually the first time where I see on CoinMarketCap where there is no smart contract chain for the project. Let's check out the website, right? Unreal Games made real. Oasys combines the best of public and private blockchain technologies to deliver a seamless, speedy, and zero-gas fee blockchain gaming experience. Discover how Oasys is building a community of gamers and developers to pioneer the future of fun. I believe it's an ecosystem infrastructure project, EVM-compatible proof-of-stake public blockchain that solves blockchain game developers' most difficult challenges. It's quite interesting. It's a separate blockchain. We definitely have oversaturation on the market for things like that, but at the same time, it's quite interesting because there is not a high amount of gaming blockchains. We basically have Xi, we have Immutable X, which is essentially layer 2, but we don't have a bunch of separate blockchains as well. We also see that they did not update the website 2023. So that's something small, that's something you can just miss, but might be quite interesting as well, because as far as I can understand, they're using this website in order to attract investors and essentially developers into the project as well. But that's just very, very basic analysis, right? Let's do something more on the expert level about actually understanding and analyzing what is happening with this project. So I'm basically on Dropstep website and opening Oasys token, right? We can see all the chart here, and often actually it shows chart not only from the time of like CoinMarketCap mentioned, but from the time of IDOs as well. So we can see that it essentially launched 001. Therefore, early investors and people who were buying essentially there, they should be at around 12x at this stage. Market cap is 140 million, which we saw in CoinMarketCap already, in 1.3 billion fully diluted, which is almost a 10x different. Quite bearish, because that basically means that you will get dumped on by early investors. Investors, we only have one tier 1 fund, which is Jump Crypto. We have Huobi, we have Huobi invested, Crypto.com. So interesting that exchanges are invested into this thing as well, but exchanges, they essentially can be invested into a bunch of things because they have a bunch of money. Gaming Guild, quite interesting as well. Gaming Guild is always a bullish investor for a gaming project. What do we have in terms of the fundraising? They basically sold 1.4 billion of tokens and they raised $21 million. And they sold 14% of the supply for the token as well. $21 million raised is quite interesting because even things like Heroes of Mavia, they raised way lower funds. At the same time, it's essentially a blockchain project. It's not very clear how to monetize these things in terms of actually generating proper revenue with the blockchain. Probably with essentially blockchain onboarding projects into the ecosystem and providing this ecosystem, and then they would essentially have a fee on all of the transactions that people will be doing inside the ecosystem and inside the blockchain as well. 20 million is actually quite bullish for a gaming project because not a lot of gaming projects are actually raising this amount of funds as well. We can see that investors from initial private round in July 2022, they're at around 9x at this stage. And then rounds in 2022, 3.68x as well. It's quite interesting that they were raising funds basically at the lowest point in the market. But the raises here, they're $8,000, 1 million, very, very low. The main raise is 20 million and the main raise in July when people were probably not expecting the heavy bear market that we basically saw. One of the most important things for us is essentially vesting schedule. How many tokens early investors are getting on a daily basis and how much would essentially get dumped on if we are entering into these tokens. So we basically see a linear vesting on a monthly basis, 12% of the tokens, which is quite large by itself. We do also see that we will have a major unlock in 22 days, and we will essentially dilute it with the tokens, and essentially current holders, they will get diluted with the tokens as well. Very, very interesting info. One of the bullish things is that public sale people, they are already unlocked at TGE, but the supply that they had is very, very low. So here we have 1.2 billion and here just in total is 29 million. So this supply is very, very low. These guys, they had cliff. So right now they would probably be pumping the price of the token up because we do only have 20% of all the tokens in the circulation, and then they would essentially be dumping the tokens into the market as well. One of the bearish scenarios is because vesting is linear at this stage and they essentially are getting tokens on a monthly basis. And it would be a more interesting scenario if, for example, they would essentially have larger cliff, or essentially if they would have quarterly vesting introduced into the whole thing as well, because then we would be able to play around these unlocks in a better way. We would essentially understand that the circulation supply of the token is very, very low at this stage. Therefore, it's very, very easy to pump the whole thing. And based on the fact that the token was basically at zero when the whole gaming crypto was pumping, that means that the holders, they were selling the token and the market makers, they were buying out the supply of the token as well. Therefore, they have a bunch of tokens at this stage in order to provide manipulation moving forward, which we are basically seeing currently happening for this token as well. And the main question you might have, whether or not you should be buying the token at this stage. So we basically did a 3x from the lows, and from the public sale we have 4x's, and from the private sale we have like 9x's on the 20 million that the guys invested, but they do have a lot of unlocks moving forward. I think it actually might be a great buy long term, because I do think that they plan manipulation closer to the peak of the cycle. And right now they're pushing some things, maybe to take some profits on the tokens they would able to get from the market, and then essentially have more money to push the whole thing moving forward as well. I do think it actually might be a great buy. I do think it's quite early in terms of the market cap of the whole thing, and in terms of the things that might be happening moving forward. Although ideally it's also to wait for the correction on this thing, because we just recently pumped. I don't want you to buy into green candles. Although in the bull market, it might be a very, very beneficial activity as well. You just need to understand what exactly is happening with your token, what exactly is happening on the market right now. Next thing, we have Seedify.fund. Very, very well-known token from the last cycle as well. Did very nice, $16. Although price-wise, we are only 4 to 5x lower from the highs of the previous cycle. And I can tell you, there are a bunch of people who are buying into Launchpad tokens in the bear market. People that know how to play this market. And it's very, very easy activity to buy into Launchpad's tokens in the bear market, because that's the only one thing that will definitely pump in the next cycle as well, which I unfortunately did not do from my end, although I wanted to. Again, it's been pushed by a bunch of influencers. They have a bunch of projects. and they will probably continue being pushed as well. Although there are some bearish scenario in connection with the fact that launchpads and IDO might be the narrative of the previous cycle, and the quality of games that they essentially bringing into the launchpad might not be that great. But this is just the speculation. I do think it's basically the one of the top launchpads currently, and as essentially one of the top launchpads, it should perform well on the marketplace as well. And it will definitely continue to get pushed by influencers at the top of the cycle as well. And speaking of the market cap, we are almost at the same level. Speaking of the market cap as well, which is very interesting. And we only have 50% in the circulation supply at this stage. So probably they essentially fundraise in the bear market as well, because I think if they did not, they would essentially just have all of the tokens in the circulation supply as well, which is a great thing, which means that they are planning to actually work on the project, and essentially there is a manipulation being planned in terms of this thing as well. And they do have a bunch of partnerships with a bunch of gaming influencers as well. I do think it's going to do well. I also want to be conservative. I would say somewhere between from 5 to 15x. Next thing we have is series of Mavia. I was doing a video about this project 8 days ago, so it was on 10th of February. And on 10th of February, you could have entered at 5.8 bucks. So right now we're almost at 2x. And essentially with the video of Alex Becker, right now you're at 0x because he's telling about this project at this stage. But at the same time, there was an opportunity to invest in a private seed round in near Tokyo into this token as well, which is very, very nice by itself. Early investors, they entered at $0.4, which is very, very important to understand. Who are you playing against? At the same time, probably with this type of entry price, they were not able to enter for a large allocation as well. So best people who are making the most money, they were the ones who essentially bought a bag of these tokens at $1.8, because essentially after the launch, it actually dumped to $1.8, which was a generational entry for Heroes of Mavia. I do think it has a very, very strong narrative in becoming Axie Infinite of this cycle. It's a mobile game. They're using a very well-known type of mechanic. And one of the bearish things that you might see is that fully diluted is basically 10x larger than the market cap at this stage. Almost, right? 8x at this stage. And circulating supply that we have in the market currently is just 12%, which is very interesting by itself. That just means that it's easy to pump the price of the token up, and that's exactly what is happening. This is exactly what the market maker behind this thing is doing. Volumes 100 million in 24 hours, crazy. It's definitely a very, very alive token and a very, very alive project as well. Great project, great token, not going to enter currently. I do know that this market gives opportunities each and every time. I would wait for a correction. It might be wrong as well, because if we would essentially zoom out on the long-term time frame, I think closer of the end of this year, this thing might easily be at around $100. So a very, very nice 10x. Well, with Heroes of Mavia, it's quite hard, because if it will get adopted as Axie Infinite of this cycle, it will just go nuts, just will go crazy. I would just want to put it at 10 to 20x. The main reason for that is because it has quite large, fully diluted valuation. But I do expect that they would not be able to provide all the tokens that are locked currently by the end of this year. I do believe that they have longer unlocks as well in terms of what essentially is happening with the project. So these things you also need to understand. But I think it's a great project. It's a gem. It's from this cycle. So even if you would be buying out currently, I think you would be doing very, very well. And you might want to enter currently, then wait for a correction, then buy some more. I think it's a great, great piece of technology. Now we are coming up to controversial things. We see Illuvium, which is at $97, and at the highest it was at $1,600. $800. Crazy. So it's like 20x's from here. So you should buy into this token right away. Wrong. We need to understand what is happening, speaking of the market cap as well. And difference in the market cap is basically already only a 3x. So we would reach exactly the same market cap at the peak of the last cycle for Illuvium in 3x from now, which would basically put the token at $300. It's also the token of the previous cycle. We still have fully diluted 2 times larger than the market cap as well. But if you know me, if you're following my channel, I'm very, very cautious about altcoins. And I'm very, very cautious essentially in sitting in altcoins, because people, they view altcoins based on traction, and they view new coins based on promises, which is very, very important. I don't think Illuvium is going to do well this cycle. I do think we might expect 5 to 10x as maximum, and I think shiny objects, they will suck out all the liquidity. I think you should be very, very careful with sitting in Illuvium, and you might want to understand where to enter into the new tokens. If you don't know how, check out my video from yesterday. I'm specifically telling you how to build the chart on correlation of all the token into a new token and figure out when is the right time to enter the new token with the liquidity of the old token that you have. Very, very important video. Check it out. Next thing is BYTES from Neo Tokyo, which is a token that you need to stake inside Neo Tokyo in order to essentially be able to participate in the launch pads, and it's essentially a token of this NFT community. I'm the member of Neo Tokyo myself. I have a Neo Tokyo S1, which is worth around 15 to 17 Ethereum at this stage. At the tops of last cycle, it was worth around $150,000, and I do expect for essentially Neo Tokyo NFTs to do very, very well this cycle as well. And I do think that the same thing essentially awaits BYTES as well, because Elliot Trades and Alex Becker, they would essentially continue talking about BYTES into this cycle as well. I do think it will do quite well. The market cap is actually only 24 million at this stage. I don't think that these numbers are actually right, because coin market cap is often wrong in terms of the things that are happening. And you see here that on this tab, it does not even show the chart of the market cap for this project as well. We had lows at $7 essentially. Well, it's quite hard with BYTES because it's definitely a closer ecosystem at this stage. And once the price of NFTs will surge up, it would be harder to get into actually being able to use BYTES as well. So it's only going to be used by citizens, which are, to the most part, more experienced members on the marketplace as well. So they would know they would be taking profits. They would know how to behave themselves with these tokens as well. It also heavily depends on the influencers. I don't know. I would put 5 to 10 X's. I'm not very, very bullish on BYTES, but I still think it's going to do well just because of the fact that it's backed by basically largest gaming influencers with largest gaming NFT community as well. Paid network from Kyle Chessy. An interesting thing because it's basically a launchpad and they do have private deals, very, very nice private deals essentially going on specifically exclusively for the launchpad as well. Kyle's is also one of the most connected person in crypto. He's in crypto from very, very long time as well. Market cap is quite low for this thing as well. Fully diluted is also not so bad, just 220 million. And I do know some info that essential influencers are getting onboarded into this token, and then they're basically speaking about this token as well. And I do think more things like that would be happening on the market moving forward as well. So I do think that this thing would essentially get pushed to it's quite low market cap, and it's been pushed heavily by Alex Becker. I think this pump was caused by Alex Becker buying into this token on one of his wallets that is being tracked by the public. Quite pump at this stage already, so I would not suggest you to buy the pump, but I do think it's going to do very, very well. At the same time, from the tokenomics point of view, you don't have to hold a lot of paid tokens in order to be able to participate in the launchpads. Although if you want to get a guaranteed allocation, you would still need to hold a bunch of them, like crazy amounts, probably like maybe somewhere around 100,000 worth of these tokens at this stage. I think it's a good entry on the correction as well. It's also kind of the token of this cycle because it's being redone this cycle. We also have Kyle and his YouTube channel. He's crushing it on YouTube currently, and he will definitely continue doing so. So it's also an influencer token, and I do believe it's going to do very, very well, just because it's been pushed and supported by the influencers all over the space as well. Vulcan Forged. Token of the last cycle was heavily pushed in the last cycle as well. I don't think it actually showed a bunch of X's. So it basically showed like 11 X's from the lows of September till the highs of November. I don't know. That's something that you maybe would want to expect more from these type of tokens as well, because Alex Becker, he was like heavily pushing this token last cycle as well. Market cap is quite low in comparison to the highs. At the same time, it's only 3x lower, so you have to be cautious about these things. My opinion, I do see it mentioned in different videos, but I don't see it moving hard as well. I do also think that it's token on the last cycle. I think you have to be very, very careful. If you're biased towards this token, please rethink your actions and your thoughts as well. And here we see that it pumped 3x from the lows of October, but at the same time, new gaming tokens, they pumped 8x, 10x, 12x. So I do think you have to be very, very cautious about this token as well. It's probably going to get continued updates from Alex in terms of the things and from other influencers as well, because they mentioned this thing. But just the fact that it's talking of the last cycle, I don't think it's going to do too well, right? So following the small market cap at this stage, I would probably give 5 to 10x. I don't believe in Vulcan Forged much at this stage, just because I basically had same beliefs in the last cycle, and in the last cycle I didn't also push much, despite the fact how much it was pushed by the largest gaming influencers. It should have definitely pumped more, but it didn't. And I think this is something that also might be happening this cycle, and the market cap is only 3 times lower than the all-time high market caps of the previous cycle as well. Although we do expect largest amount of liquidity to basically be injected into the market this cycle as well, but just not for me. That's up to you. Do your own research. You're basically just getting my opinion here as well. Nakamoto Games is actually something I'm quite bullish on if it would have a smaller market cap, but the fact it has larger market cap essentially shows that a lot of people are bullish on this thing as well. We see it basically launched at the top of the last cycle and went just down from there, so we kind of can say that it didn't see a fully fledged bull cycle from the beginnings that it's seen currently. And the reason I'm bullish on these things is because they're focusing on mobile part of gaming, and I think mobile part is something that will prevail, something that will succeed and outperform most of the gaming tokens as well, because mobile games, they should be accessible, and all the hype with Axie Infinity basically came from Asia as well. And I don't think that any products that are not actively being developed for Asian market would succeed much essentially in the market as well. We also see that from the lows it did 8x's at this stage. And it's quite large market cap. 150 million for a gaming token is quite nice at this stage of the market. Fully diluted is not so bad as well. And it's interesting that it's on Polygon. It's quite bullish by itself as well, because you have certain connection with Ethereum, which is quite nice by itself, because Ethereum is basically the largest blockchain except Bitcoin with largest amount of liquidity as well, which is very, very bullish and interesting for these projects. So this is the token I'm bullish on. I think it's going to do great. I think it's going to be somewhere between 10 to 20 x's in the full cycle. And I do want to say I'm quite conservative in terms of my estimates on this video. WAGMI Games is something that basically launched in the bear cycle and is something from this cycle as well. It's quite interesting. It was pumping in July. It was pumping in December. And it's pumping up currently as well. Very, very nice dip to scoop here actually, right? But it's only 2x from these dips as well, so it's not that large. It's kind of structured as a meme coin, because you see that the price for one token is very, very low. So when people are buying this, they can just throw like $5 and they will have like, you know, millions of this token. And it's very, very nice kind of setup for retail. It's easy for them to buy. It's kind of pleasant psychologically to buy into this thing. It done quite a few X's from the lows, that's for sure. At this stage, I would not be getting in currently, but it might be a nice peak to get in on the correction as well. The main reason for that is because this is the token of this cycle. It has this kind of meme side of things as well, but at the same time, certain investors that don't want to get into this thing because they view it as something, you know, like not serious and things like that. But it's a token of this cycle. It's definitely on a lower quality side in terms of the projects. So it's definitely more riskier from this point of view. But with more risk, you basically have more reward as well. And it's also a token of this cycle, which is very, very nice for the token, for the market as well. And they went through the whole bear market and they stayed alive. Myria, ecosystem node-based play. I was talking about it in previous video as well. Quite bullish on the project too. We only have 20% in circulating supply at this stage, which means that it's very, very easy to pump the price of the token for the market maker and for the founders of the project as well. Fully diluted is 5 times larger than the current, so it might be a bit bearish. I'm not sure what's the situation with the vestings as well, but I doubt that they will have all of the circulating supply into the market by the end of this year. I would say they would probably have 60 to 70% in terms of the things that are happening. However, there are people with nodes. Therefore, there is constant selling pressure for this token as well, because there are people constantly receiving tokens for running nodes for this project as well. Quite bullish. We will see if it will be able to repeat the history of Gala I think it might go crazy in the bull run essentially as well. I would essentially give it from 15 to 25x in the full bull cycle. Talking of this cycle as well, we see a nice cup and handle forming here if you would see the chart. So we might actually be able to search up from here, depending on the market conditions, of course, as well. But very, very interesting token and very, very nice project by itself as well. Verasity, something from the last cycle as well. There are a lot of people who are still sitting into this token and essentially waiting for it to pump. What makes me bullish is something that I just saw right now, that we do only have 10% of the tokens in circulating supply. And following the fact that it's the token of the last cycle, it means that somewhere here in the bear market basically was revived by VCs. They thrown a bunch of funds into this thing. They got a nice OTC deal. They were sent a bunch of tokens, and these tokens, they were essentially unlocked. With 10% in the circulation supply, we can definitely expect a manipulation on this token as well. On other side, from bearish point of things, right? If the circulation supply is only 10%, why this token have not moved yet? It's very, very easy for market maker and for the investors of this token to pump and push the price of the token if there are only 10% of the tokens in the circulation supply. We had some speculations, and I had them myself, that Verasity might pump with the introductions of Apple Vision Pro and things like that, but probably it will mostly pump with reintroduction of Metaverse narrative. And Metaverse narrative will definitely come back. It will not come back from the things you expect it to come from. It will come back from Bitcoin ecosystem, from ordinals and from Bitmap as well, because it's quite alive there already. We see nice pump recently. It might be a nice setup for Verasity at this stage in terms of the token and things that are happening. We might be at the start of the pump because 10% circulation supply is just crazy for the token. Based on Ethereum as well, quite interesting. We would see. I wanted to be bearish about this token in the first place, just because of the fact that it's a token of the older cycle, and these things, they usually perform not so well. And this token, it pretty much was dead during the recent pump of the gaming tokens, but the Metaverse narrative is also kind of dead. And speaking of the market cap, it's like only 5 times lower from the highs of the previous cycle. At the same time, you have to understand that a lot of the tokens, if they're like good projects, proper projects, they would essentially be able to reach new all-time highs, for speaking of the market cap, just because of the fact we're getting way more liquidity into the market this time as well. And the fact that we do only have 10% of the tokens in circulation supply. So investors that definitely plan to dump on retail and dump on the holders of the token. But in order to do that, they need to pump the price of the token up in the first place, which is very, very interesting. Quite interesting and nice situation. I would even say 10 to 30x, depending on how Metaverse narrative will essentially get reintroduced into the marketplace as well. But it's quite risky at this stage, I would say. But at the same time, 10% circulating supply just shows me that there might be a manipulation planned into this thing. At the same time, they might just be awaiting to get the unlocks in order to dump on the current holders. But probably if they would be doing that, they would be making a very, very small amount of money. And I don't think that investors and VCs in crypto market, they're here in order to make small amounts of money. I don't think that's the goal, right? Altura is an infrastructure token from the last cycle. Alex is definitely early investor and advisor for this token as well. So there is a high chance that he would essentially continue to push this token through the whole bull cycle as well. It's pumping quite nice after the video. At the same time, it's only like 10% pump. It's quite interesting like that Alex videos, they do not pump the tokens much at this stage. And the main reason for that is because there are not too much retail in the market at this stage. It's very PvP focused, and experienced players on the market, they burned so much times after buying on FOMO after his vids. So therefore they understand what specifically is happening with the videos. At the same time, the vid probably was not watched by a bunch of people yet. But we don't have to neglect the influence of Alex videos in retail part of the cycle. It's just going to be like crazy. Well, when BTC breaks all-time highs, Alex videos, they will just pump tokens like crazy after that. They're just crazy to me. So it's quite interesting with Altura, because if you were buying it at January 1st of 2023, you would get 8x at these levels already. That's one of the tokens that actually performed quite well in the bear market. And they do definitely have some developments going on within the team as well. So they're building some stuff. that I know of. At the same time, it's also the token of the last cycle. So I would say that you should be very, very cautious with Altura as well. Interesting thing that we see is that the market cap is quite larger than the market cap that we basically had in the previous cycle, which is kind of bearish, because we see that the market cap is already larger than the market cap that was basically introduced in the last cycle as well. And last cycle, it was just crazy with Altura. It basically was my largest holding. It was pumped by influencers so much. Yeah, I think just CoinMarketCap is not showing the proper numbers for the market cap, because it just shows them from 2022, which already was a bear market. And obviously at these levels, we had the higher market cap than essentially we have currently. So from that point of view, it's all good. It's an infrastructure play, so it's probably going to be used by different protocols and games at the same time as well. But I would say again, it's the token of the last cycle, and fully diluted is only 1.5 times larger than the market cap. So it's more like a people's token, but Alex will definitely be pumping this thing in the bull cycle as well. I just want to stay cautious with these things. I would say from 5 to 15x in the bull cycle. The main reason for that is because we already did 8x from the lows of the bear market, and we did it almost all in the bear market as well, which is very, very interesting because the token performed quite well in the bear market, probably based on the insights, based on people maybe near Tokyo buying into these things, based on people closer to the Alex Becker as well. So we would essentially, if we would do from 5 to 15x from these numbers, that would mean that for people that were buying it in the absolute lows, we would essentially be doing from 40 to 120x. And do you think that they would have any incentive to hold the token moving further? I would say they would just be mostly planning to sell, to exit, take the profits and leave. Therefore, I think 5 to 15x conservative for this token is quite nice, just based on the fact that Alex will most likely be pushing this project to retail once he would essentially enter the PvE retail stage of the market. And at the same time, they do definitely have some developments going on for the project as well. Next thing is big time, World of Warcraft of play to earn gaming. Quite nice project by itself. I do like it. I think I was buying a pass for this project in the last cycle as well. It did some nice numbers and basically did several X's from the lows. Right now it's in correction. The main issue you can see is 9% tokens in the circulation, and at the same time 2 billion fully diluted market cap. Actually, the situation is quite similar to Verasity at this stage, because Verasity only has 7x difference between the market cap and fully diluted, and Big Time has 10x. But Big Time is the token of this cycle, which makes it quite bullish by itself. And at the same time, they have a pretty nice team, people that were developing World of Warcraft. The product is already something you can play. There are farms in China, like guilds and farms, basically farming Big Time for living, trying to extract value and extract money from the game as well. But unlocks that definitely severe. With this 2 billion fully diluted market cap, I would say that anyway, once retail would pump, they will not care about these things. They would come and just pump this token and just push it to very, very large numbers as well. Hard to say. There are not a lot of people from influencers talking about this project currently, maybe because the project basically is not paying influencers yet. At this stage, they're not buying their opinions currently, but maybe they would be planning to buy them closer to the PvE stage of the market when retail comes, when essentially BTC will break all-time high as well. But if you would be buying to this thing, you would essentially get dumped on by early investors like all the time, and people who are farming this token as well inside the game. So it's quite hard. I do think it's going to do well. I do think even with the current market cap from current numbers, 5 to 15x in the bull cycle. And the reason it's lower is because fully diluted is quite large. So it probably would do more X's, but the fact that just the price of the token would get diluted with the introduction of the early investors as well. New token, working game, World of Warcraft like game, people like it from the things that I heard as well. Very, very interesting thing. At the same time, they don't have a mobile version, right? So it's quite hard to become adoptable in Asia. Star Atlas, token from the last cycle, also launched at the peak of the bull run pretty much. quite dead if you would check out the whole chart, but if we check, we can see that it did 3.5x from the lows as well. I think it's also on Solana chain, which is quite bullish by itself. Yeah, you know my opinion on the tokens of the last cycle as well. I would say that you should be very, very careful with this thing. 70 million market cap, 1.70 million fully diluted at this stage as well. Well, it behaves exactly as all of the tokens of the last cycle did 4x from the lows, like gaming tokens from the last cycle, and U tokens, they've done much more, went on the correction, and right now is pumping back. So it basically just follows the market. Did it outperform BTC? Maybe a little bit, but yeah, quite bearish on this thing, I would say 5 to 10x. It might be closer to 5 actually. Shrapnel. Shooter from this cycle on Avalanche. So I would say Shrapnel is a classic example of this shiny new object gaming coin on new gaming chain Avalanche. Great game, nice graphics, and fully diluted valuation 12 times higher than the current market cap, and only 8% of tokens in circulating supply at this stage. Crazy how well they can pump this thing moving forward. And at the same time, how much they will be dumping on the holders of this thing as well. 0.1 at the lows, 0.3 currently, so it didn't move much. There was some FUD about Shrapnel, I think, during the time when all of these gaming tokens were pumping as well. Well, this is Shooter is getting pushed heavily by influencers as well. Is the token of this cycle, but the market cap is quite large, and fully diluted is just crazy. If you would ask me, I think it's the largest difference between the market cap and fully diluted. It's even larger than with big time, which is crazy to me. Just because of the fact this is the token of this cycle, I would just put it at 10 to 25x from these numbers as well. But you do have to understand how important is entry point in crypto. If you would be able, for some reason, to enter on a correction into this token, just going to be very, very good. Crazy good for yourself as well. Stable project, U cycle, going to get pushed by the influencers. The only issue that you might have is that it's a similar game, therefore it's a bit more riskier, but I do think that it will at least have lifetime longevity till the end of this year at least, because the game is not even launched yet at this stage, and people are already speculating on the token, which might be bearish from my point of view, because if you check the example of Heroes of Mavia, they launched the game first and then they have a TGE, which definitely show a great investment. That's basically why Heroes of Mavia is a blue chip. Shrapnel is also nice. SIDUS is a classic example of why you have to be very, very cautious with the tokens of the last cycle, because it's trap. We see that current price is 0.062, and you might think that, wow, the highest they were 0.16. That's how many X's? It's like 50, 100 X's. I can't even calculate it like right now. It's very, very large amount of X's. Very, very nice. Then we go into the market cap, and we basically see that we are basically at the same level, speaking of the market cap, for this token already. And the main reason for that is because we have a bunch of tokens inside the market already. We have a fully diluted valuation of 140 million. Right now, the market cap is 58 million. And the reason it was that high in terms of the price of the token is because at that time we had a crazy low supply of the tokens in the market. So we had crazy low percentage of tokens actually being circulating in the market. And all this time, essentially, investors were getting unlocked. Some of them, they were dumping the tokens, and probably the market maker, he was buying the tokens from them as well. And then we basically had a manipulation, but probably if the price was not pushed much, and the price essentially was only pumped by 6x from the lows. So probably early investors, they had a bunch of unlocks somewhere here, and here essentially the price moved along with the fact that they had a bunch of unlocks, and essentially with the 6x the market cap of the token pumped already. You have to understand these things. The price is 0.06. It was at 0.14. That's a bunch of X's. Some people might be telling you, wow, if it's going to reach new all-time highs, it would be just crazy in terms of the price. It's not going to, in terms of new all-time highs within the price, because it's already reached previous all-time highs in terms of the market cap. Token of the old cycle, be very, very careful. I would say 5 to 10x. I don't think it's going to do well. Crown, classic influencer pump and dump. but it's a very nice token. Market cap is basically wrong on CoinMarketCap. You should check out market cap for Crown and CoinGecko. I believe it's at around 100 million at this stage, pumping nicely after the video of Alex Becker. It's actually one of the tokens that pumped nicely after the video, which is quite bullish by itself, if you would ask me. Did a bunch of X's from the lows, 6 X's, and from there 3 X's on top. 6 times 3 is 18 X's from the lows, and there were people who were buying at that time, and they still have a bunch of tokens that they would be essentially be looking to take profits on. Well, 100 million market cap, fully diluted 230 million. I do think it's going to do well, but to a certain extent, just because of the fact it's a token of this cycle, and they are very, very well connected with the influencers as well. It's basically a D-race of this cycle as well. If you were here in the last cycle, and if you remember how D-race was pushed and pumped by the influencers in the last cycle as well. But because of the fact it already has 100 million market cap, I would essentially put it at 5 to 15x. Not much, because for this thing to be able to reach like 3 billion from fully diluted market cap, yeah, it's just going to be crazy good. That's why from 5 to 15x, just because of the fact the market cap is quite large. It's not 60 million, it's basically somewhere around 100-120 million at this stage. Check out on CoinGecko. Blockchain Bets, project that was pumped by Alex Becker nicely here, and he's mentioning quite a lot. Also the token of this cycle. What we have here in fully diluted, exactly the same as market cap. Quite interesting, actually, because I think it's the only project that we see where the market cap is similar to the fully diluted. And it's being pushed by Alex Becker. It's probably going to continue being pushed by Alex Becker. And if you would check and see the charts of all these tokens, most of them, they did not pump much after the video. Crown pumped nicely, and this thing is pumping nicely as well. And Alex, he basically emphasized on this token inside this video as well. So we recently saw a pump from 002 to 004, and it's continued pumping based on the video that was just released yesterday. Gambling project, I think is going to do well. I think if you could actually enter at these dips, 002, that's a nice generational entry. I think Alex will continue talking about this project moving forward, and they actually have a working functional product. I think it's going to do very, very well. 10 to 25x in the full bull, even from these numbers, which is quite nice. It's 30 million market cap, it does not have large dilution. 10 to 25x, definitely doable for this token. Virtue Poker. This is the token that I was talking on this channel for quite a lot, and this is the token that I like, and this is the token that is also being called a pump and dump of the influencers. This is the token of the last cycle as well. If you check the market cap, it's also quite interesting that the market cap is quite similar to the highs of the market cap in the previous cycle. So we only 3x, even 2x lower from the highs of the market cap of the last cycle. I do think it's going to do way better than the previous cycle just because of the fact it's being pumped so early. The worst thing that might happen is that if they would decide to exit the tokens at this level, if they would decide that it's fine for them, they pumped it enough. At the same time, we can see that the fully diluted valuation is 33 million, 34, and the current market cap is 7 million. It's very, very low market cap. This token, frankly speaking, does not have a lot of liquidity as well. Total supply is 20%, and the token also received investments in the bear market, which basically tells me that they're going to pump to push this thing moving forward. I think it's going to do quite well from the current numbers as well, just because of the fact it's also only 7 million market cap at this stage in terms of this token. And Alex Becker, he would continue pushing this token moving forward, which is basically the reason why I bought into the token in the first place. I hold around $35,000 in this token at this stage, and I do think it's going to do very, very well. I would put it at 10 to 20x. It's quite conservative. 10 to 20x, we would be with the fully diluted valuation at, well, 300, 600 million, might be. So I would say it's quite conservative because I want to be conservative in this video. I would put it in 10 to 20x, but I do think it actually might do way better. The only issue that I might have is that we do only have 20% of the circulating supply of this token in the market at this stage. And it's not pumping like very, very hard after Alex videos as well. And we will definitely get a dilution of the supply moving forward as well. Gambling tokens of last cycle, 15 million, 16 million market cap, 25 million fully diluted. Basically saw the highs at $1.47. And right now we're at 0.05. Let's check out what's the situation with the market cap. It's definitely more on low cap side of things. And it's quite interesting that Alex has been pushing this token as well. Probably he's connected to some way because he's not often mentioning low caps on his videos that he's not connected to in some shape or form, right? He's probably an advisor, things like that. If he would continue essentially mention it on the videos, it will do well, although it's the token of the last cycle, so I'm quite cautious on it as well. And it's quite interesting that it pumped nicely after the video as well. I don't think holders of the token basically expected Alex to mention this token on his video as well. It almost did 50-60% plus, which is very, very interesting. Well, if he's continuing to pushing and mentioning this token in the cycle, in the bull cycle as well, is going to do well. It's quite low market cap at this stage, to be honest with you. I would put 10 to 20x. I think it might do well. Akash is a decentralized AI play. I was basically mentioned it on the video 10 days ago as well. So 10 days ago, you were able to get at $2.7, so at least 30% lower than currently. Quite large market cap at this stage. I would say it's one of these largest tokens in AI and decentralized infrastructure narrative as well. Probably will do well because largest influencers, they do also mention this token in the videos. I think it might do very, very well. The tokenomics of this thing is quite nice as well because the token actually has utility inside the ecosystem too. So they have to use the tokens in order to receive the benefits of the ecosystem, which is definitely very, very healthy for the project as well. And I do like the combination of the narratives. AI and decentralized infrastructure, I think DeepIn will run very, very well moving forward. And in combination with AI, it's crazy, nice cocktail of narratives within this token as well. The only issue that the market cap is quite large at this stage. 0.3 at the lows. So it did like a 10x from the lows, even more already, which is nice at the same time, which shows you that you have to be cautious with these things. Do not enter it currently, enter it on the lows. Projection, speaking of the market cap, 5 to 10x, conservative at this stage. But if you would be able to enter somewhere about like $2.5, 1.5, 1.7, easily might be 20 to 30x for you. PAAL AI surging nicely, and the main reason for that is essentially introduction of Sora from ChatGPT, which is crazy by itself. But interesting thing that I was mentioning PAAL AI in my video on 10th of February. So you were able to enter at the time and you would get more than 2x already. Why are you not yet subscribed to this channel? Subscribe if you want to make money. And currently, after Alex's video, if you're entering, you will probably get dumped on. 300 million, they have a pretty nice product as well. I think it's quite unique in terms of the other products that you have on the marketplace. They actually have certain implementation in real life. They're kind of like this SaaS type of business, which is very, very healthy for the things that are happening on the market as well. I do think it might do well, although I do think that the market cap is quite large at this stage. I would put it in between 7 to 15x's because the market cap is quite large currently as well. And again, I do have to be conservative. 0x0 AI pretty much did a 2x in the last 2 weeks as well. And AI tokens, they're just going like crazy. NQAI that I was mentioning on the previous video, it did a 2x as well. You were able to check out my video 10 days ago and make 2 times on your money in 2 tokens. So you were actually able to do this twice, right? 0x0 AI, great token. I'm seeing a lot of influencers talking about this token on Twitter as well. At the same time, it's quite pumped already. I will not be getting into this token at this stage. I will be essentially waiting for a dip. There would always be opportunities on the marketplace. Don't FOMO into something that's pumping already. That's something that's being talked about by influencers on Twitter and things like that. Be very, very careful with these things because they're shilling it to you in order to take profits, in order to dump on you as well. And it done quite a lot of X's from the lows as well. Like it's almost 100x, I think. Just crazy to me. So quite a large market cap at this stage. I would say just wait for a correction. If you would want to get into, probably, most likely, influencers, they will continue to talk about these things as well. Well, this is pretty much it from my end. Very very tedious video, I would say. It was very, very hard to do it, but I would hope that you understood the thought process here. I provided you with the full overview of each and every token. I told you the things that you have to be cautious about, things that I like myself personally, and I think that will do very, very well. And probably after this analysis, after this overview and a bit of research, you would be able to navigate better in the market and in between of the peaks of the largest gaming influencer on the market as well. Thank you very much for watching this video. Like and subscribe if you like the content, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.